Hi there, welcome to another video on creating music in Cubase Elements. We've built up a nice production idea. Now we're going to look at just tightening up and controlling the sound of these production ideas. Mixing is a long process. You can never do a complete mix in 5 minutes, but I'm going to show you some nice techniques that you can use to make sure you're painting a large sonic picture with your production. If you really want to get into mixing your projects yourself, then all it takes is a bit of application and practice. Let's go and take a look at some of the things you can do to really improve the sound of your production and projects. Before I start thinking about mixing anything, I always go and make sure I have a nice tidy up of my project so that everything's organized into folder tracks and I can very quickly show and hide the tracks that I want to work with or don't want to be using or seeing at that point in time. So the folder tracks are a handy way of rearranging our project. The next thing that I always do before I start a mix is change the color of different components of the production. It's a really nice way to really quickly be able to get a visual lock in on something that's going on out in the project window. And of course, those colors also relate to the MixConsole. That means that whatever I'm working on in the project window, I can very quickly see down in the MixConsole and vice versa. It's even more important when you're working up in the project window to be able to pinpoint the track that you're working on the MixConsole straight away. Let's go and take a look at some of the different components of this production. I'm going to start with the very first drum kit I added in the first video. Everyone does things differently. For me, I like focusing on a specific channel by looking at it in the channel settings window. And that gives me an idea of everything that's going on in that channel. Now, if you've not mixed before, I can highly recommend going for the Alan Morgan channel strip settings to start with. These presets contain a combination of really important mix components. And if you've not mixed a track before, it's a great place to start because you can see what a world-famous engineer might put over the top of a specific track. So for instance, here I've gone for a master bus setting. And I've just added my own tape saturation to warm it up a little bit. I don't think this track needs a compressor, but I'm showing you that you can also go in and add an audio insert. Now, some people would say you can never have too much compression, probably in the electronic music scene, but if you don't know what you're doing, once again, you can go through the presets. And all this is doing is controlling the dynamics of this drum track. So if I don't want it to get too loud once it hits a specific level, I can set a level of compression to say when it gets that loud, just drop the volume a little bit so it sounds more natural, and it's a more natural way of controlling the sound than something like a brick wall limiter, which we'll put over the top of the master channel. Now, moving through these kit pieces, this second kit piece, I want to stand out in a particular frequency range. So that's the high mids. So I'm just attenuating a little bit there and adding a little bit of air over the top because this has got the hi-hats in it. So I really want this kit part to take care of the high end in the track. There's a number of different sections in this track, so you need to make sure that something that you apply to one section will also be relevant to the rest of the track. So always go through and check the entire track. Now, you don't need to mix with inserts or in the MixConsole alone. For instance, on this track I want a bit more air or reverb. So I'm adding a reverb inside of Groove Agent SE. There are really so many ways you can change the sound and manipulate the sound inside of Cubase and the plugins that come inside of Cubase Elements. Now it's time to focus on the synth. Trying some more Alan Morgan presets to try and control and shape the tone of this sound. But then I want something that's really going to make this stand out in the mix. So rather than going for tone, I'm going for space. I'm getting the Auto Pan plugin. If you've got stereo headphones on, you'll be hearing the difference this makes to the sound. It's not all about volume, it's not all about putting plugins in that are going to alter the shape of the sound. It's about using the left and right stereo field as well. Now this bass track here, I like, but it's just taking up too much room in the mix. So I really want to try and alter the tone and also the length of the note itself. So I'm just trying some of the parameters. That's good in terms of the frequency, but it's still too long. There. Now we've not only lowered the actual space where it's sitting in the mix, we've also shortened the note itself, and that gives more space in the mix for other instruments to come and fill. Now I'm just looking at my levels in various sections, doing a quick tidy up. Let's take a look at this section and this pad pump sound, because it's different to anything else in the track. It's got a lot of sustain in it. So I either remove that sustain or I go with it to try and make it sound a little bit more surreal, or spacious even. I'm going to the reverb and adding Roomworks SE. A really important part of contemporary mixing is altering things that are going on in the mix as the track's playing. And we can do that through automation, and everything in Cubase can be automated. Here's a good little example. I've opened the instrument back up, and let's say I want this phrase to build over a 4-bar phrase. I can right mouse click on the parameter, say show automation track, and now out in the project window, if I click on the R button, I can start to draw in parameter changes on that track. So it's drier at the start, and as the track builds, it's going to add more ambience. Let's go back and automate something else. That might be a bit too much. Cutoff's always a hands down winner. So let's show the cutoff automation track. Go back to the project window. Draw in a build. Once you've finished playing around with the mix, it's really important to make sure you're taking care of the master channel, because all of our tracks are being routed through this left and right stereo channel. If you've not mixed before, definitely hit up the Alan Morgan presets once again to see what he does on a master track for a specific genre. Probably don't need to tell you, but make sure that preset works for your whole entire track. The mix process involves listening to things over and over and over again in a number of different listening environments. It's critical to go and check your mix in a number of different speaker systems. Put it in the car, give it to your friends, listen to it in headphones while you're out walking about. That's the only way you really get a mix right, because people are listening to music in so many different listening environments these days. You can put a maximizer over the top of the mix to really boost the sound up to a particular level, and then of course you can put the brick wall limiter on to make sure it doesn't go over a specific level. In this video, we've really tightened up the instrumentation in the production. In the next video, we're going to use the arranger track to completely rearrange these production ideas that we have and turn them into a full song. We're also going to add the vocals once we've got the track rearranged. I'm also going to show you some really useful tips for jamming live using Cubase elements. And then the final step is bouncing all of this production down into a format that you can use to share your music with the rest of the world. I'll catch you in the next video.